Good morning, everybody. Today is Tuesday, June 6th, D-Day for all of those who are history buffs. God bless all those men who stormed that beach that day. But Tom and Anthony, how are you this morning?
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Doing well. I am excited for today.
Yeah, I hear you're off to the Wild West.
I am. I'm going to be a cowboy. I'm going to start today and end next week. So,
What are you doing out west?
we're going to start off by going out. We're having a one-day bachelor trip. One of my best friends is getting married from high school. He moved out there. So we're going to head out there. I got the bachelor party here coming up tomorrow. Saturday is the wedding. I'm the officiant. I can officiate weddings as well. So if you guys or anybody out there, any listeners thinking about getting married, I can definitely help you out there. I'm going to officiate this wedding. Then we're going to chill. My lovely wife's going to join me. We're going to go out to Moab, Arches, do that for a few days and come back to Park City, end it off.
Well, if you're in Moab, just so you know, Canyonlands is right down the road. Don't sleep on Canyonlands National Park. It's pretty amazing as well.
Yeah, I've been throwing out some teasers. As you can see, I'm Arches today. If you paid attention last week, I was Canyon. So,
did you get your reservation to go into Arches? They were doing that last year. I don't know if they're doing it this year. Double check on that. You might need a reservation to get into that one.
Okay, I will definitely look at that. I need to research that. Didn't do any of that. So, If worse comes to worse, we'll just rent the helicopter for $450 for 2 hours.
Okay. All right. Well, have fun out west. Before you leave, we need to talk condos and PUDs.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else. Yeah, we need to talk. You're coming back to town. I knew that. So,
I'm everywhere. Who cares? Condos and PUDs today, boys. Why? Because a lot of buyers and sometimes real estate agents don't know the difference in the two. And it can be a big difference in qualification. It can be a big difference in interest rate. It can be a big difference in all around. So wanted to talk about it a little bit to explain the differences, why it's important, etc. So let's start off with our senior guy up in the corner, Mr. LaPera.
What's going on, guys?
Page 11 of the Pennsylvania sales contract has boxes, either condo or PUD. Okay. Yeah. That's number one we go off of to see what type of property it is. So when you see those boxes, you see it's an attached property. What's your next step to double check for the buyers? Make sure we're getting that rate locked in correctly. Make sure we know what type of property it is. What's your process?
Well, the first step is to hopefully make sure the agreement of sale is completed correctly and the correct box is checked because it does have a pretty big difference when it comes to pricing and interest rates as well as guidelines. So if it's checked as a PUD or a planned unit development, that's how it's being priced based on interest rate.
Let's stop right there. That's a perfect place to stop. Townhouse is not a thing, right? A townhouse is not a type of property. It is either a condo or it is a PUD. Is that correct?
Yeah, unless you're over at Angelia's talking on a Friday night. Yeah, townhouse is not a thing to us.
And I think that's the biggest thing. Someone looks at a property and says, oh, that's a townhouse. And Anth, you brought up interest rates. Okay. Why it's different in interest rate. A condo has a different rate because of the association than any other type of property. So if it's a condo instead of a PUD, a planned unit development, you are going to have different interest rates. So that's step one. Interest rate, type of property are combined. Then once we find out what it is, we need to look deeper into the association. And I think that's where you were going, Anth.
Yeah. So ultimately the association itself is going to state, how they're treating the property as, if it's a PUD and also the the assessments is going to code it based on type of property as well. But the biggest factor in understanding the differences between a PUD and a condo because it could be in many forms, right? It could be a condo, it could be a patio home, which would be a PUD. But the association documents and bylaws are going to tell us all that. But you don't own the land when you have a condo. You own the land when you have a PUD. That's the biggest difference between the two.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And when we get into associations and we get into condos, because of the condo collapse a few years ago in Miami, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, they backed the mortgage industry. They came in and changed the guidelines. Now, any association that has deferred maintenance is a red flag that we have to look at in financing across the board. So if you're listing a condo, if you're listing a PUD, and you hear the words deferred maintenance, we need to look at that. If you're listing a property, you need to get the condo questionnaire. If you don't know what the condo questionnaire is, we can send you a copy. You need to get that filled out from the HOA, because that's how we find out if the property is warrantable or non-warrantable. And that's where we're going next. And Tom, that's where I'm coming with you. So if we have a condo, now we need to figure out what type of financing can be completed. Is it a warrantable condo where Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac will take it, which opens up all of our investors to that property? Or is it non-warrantable where Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac won't take it for a reason? Maybe there's an investor that owns too many units. Maybe there's too many renters. Maybe the HOA has problems. Maybe there's deferred maintenance. There's a plethora of items of why it could be non-warrantable. Then we have to find a portfolio investor that is willing to work with that type of property. If we find that out 2-3 weeks into the process that it's non-warrantable, that's a huge headache for the buyer. And Tom, let's talk about why that would be a huge headache.
Yeah. If once we find that out a couple weeks in, it's going to actually change everything with the loan. We would probably most likely need to re-originate a new loan with that new investor. And we're going to have to do a larger down payment, because if they're doing anything less than 20% down, the non-warrantable versus warrantable, if it is non-warrantable, if something is wrong, they're going to at least need to put 20% down. And sometimes the investor may even require you to put 25 or 30% down, depending on that condominium complex and what is wrong with that HOA. If it's budget and balance sheet issues, they're underwater, nobody may take that loan. That might be just a non-financeable property if they are underwater. Sometimes there are a little bit of deferred maintenance, maybe the roof's leaking in one unit, or I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now, but just a minor issue. They may take a look at it as a non-warrantable, because Fannie Mae won't, but they will require the 20% down. And that is also probably going to come with a higher interest rate, switching it to that investor to do a non-warrantable condo, since it is not allowed to be sold on the secondary market.
That's a great explanation, Thomas. And a lot of agents will reach out to me and say, well, Ryan, why can't you guys just have a list? Why don't you have a master list to tell us what's warrantable and non-warrantable? There's an easy answer for that. I know the easy answer, Tom. Don't worry, I got it. Because tomorrow it can change. We had one last year, the Muse up in the North Hills. Somehow Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac got confused. There was a note that went to Fannie Mae that there was deferred maintenance. Overnight, they turned the Muse into a non-warrantable condo. It put deals at risk. Luckily, we worked with Fannie Mae to get it resolved, because if you're familiar with the Muse, it is not a high-rise condo building like in Miami. So it's much different, and we were able to get it resolved. But literally overnight, Fannie Mae can change their guidelines. So we have to re-look at every condo for every single transaction to be safe, because the last thing we want to do is to give you guys the wrong information. So how it works, when we get the file and we hand it in, we have a condo department that starts doing work and working with the HOAs. But sometimes the HOA is slow. Sometimes the HOA doesn't get back to us in time. And that's why it can be 2-3 weeks down the road and we don't find out that a condo is non-warrantable until that point. So we need the listing agent's help to get us as much information as possible to make sure that there's no hiccups down the road when it comes to condos.
I actually had one of those just a couple of weeks ago. It was a very big condo association here that we don't typically work in. And they kept sending us, they didn't have a balance sheet or budget past 2021. And they kept sending us the same one over and over again. It took 4 weeks to end up getting the correct documents from them. And there's about 300 units in that complex. So it's not always easy getting a hold of these HOA directors, presidents, whoever may run it. They oftentimes aren't just working this is their only job, that's their second job, and if it doesn't benefit them, they don't care.
And I don't know about you or Anth, but I'm not a robot. There's no chance I could know every single condo PUD complex in Allegheny, Beaver, Butler, all these counties to know if they're warrantable or not. So that's why I can say I can try my best. We can look into it. We can look at the condo questionnaire, but we need the listing agent's help.
Yeah, there's a condo list for government financing. That doesn't help us if we don't have the actual questionnaire to show how many units are owned by the developer still, if that's the case, as well as how many units are owner occupied or investments or second homes. All of that plays a factor in what we got to do on financing to make sure it's a financeable property. So having that resale packet, the questionnaire completed sooner than later is going to make any process smoother instead of last minute. So,
and that's a great caveat to end. Up to this point, we've only been talking conventional loans. If you have a government loan, an FHA, VA, USDA, you need to contact the loan officer to figure out if financing can even happen for that type of property if you're going government loan. So that can also play a huge deal. I knew this condo PUD talk would go long. We're already out of time. I think we're going to have to continue it Friday. Thomas, will you be in attendance Friday, or are you going to be in the mountains somewhere that you'll be unavailable?
Call me. Okay,
call God. All right, guys. Have a great Tuesday. See you Friday.
Double that on you, Tom.
Later, guys.
See ya.